Alright, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to build and paint a super simple Iron Earth or Mars style base using that magic powder. You can use it with pretty much any 40k army or any Age of Sigmar army. All the paints and resources you'll need will be listed below in the description, so let's get into it. Alright, we're going to kick it off by building our own base. So we're starting off with some thick mud here. You could use any alternative for this, but just slap a load of it onto the base. I'm using a sculpting tool for doing this, but you can do it with a brush or really anything else, but just get a nice thick layer on there to add some height and variation across the base. We'll also be using this to help stick some other things to the base, so a thicker layer always helps. I've now got some decorative bark that you can use in flower beds or flower pots or whatever, but you can buy big bags of this for like £5 on Amazon. It creates fantastic rock effects without adding too much weight to the base. So once they're in place, I've just got an old crappy brush here with some water. I'm just helping to smooth out that thick mud around the rocks. It just helps to incorporate them into the base and removes that big lip or bump that you get whenever you press them into the thick mud. Then just get a variety of small stones, scatter them across the base. Use some tweezers if you don't want to get your fingers dirty. But just whatever arrangement you want, whatever way you want them to look, just press them in there and you're all good. Then grab some Martian Iron Earth or any other crackle paints from any other manufacturer will do the job. And just slap this onto the base in a number of different areas. Use some thick coats, some thin coats, and just have at it. Put it in a number of different areas, places where you think there might be drier bits of dirt, drier sand. Across the top of the rocks is always a nice place, but just slap it on some thick layers, some thin layers. Get creative, play around with it. Once it's all dry and primed, it should look something like that. It does take about 24 hours for all this stuff to dry fully, so do this in advance. Then come in with some Doombull Brown and lay a nice even foundation across the base. I'm using a medium dry brush here from Artis Opus just to slap it all down and get that done super quick. But apply 2 layers over the top just to ensure you have a nice even saturation and coverage to ensure that you've got a solid base that we can apply some pigments over the top of. So we're going to be using a collection of pigments here. We've got some burnt sienna, some dark red ochre, some old rust, some regular rust, and some new rust, and then some pigment binder. So the way I like to do this is you get a well palette and then you load it up with your different pigments and then a pool of your pigment binder. It allows you to move quickly between the different pigments, create different mixes, and then apply them to the base. So the way that I do this is I dip into my pigment binder and then I mix it in with some of the pigment. I start off with some of the burnt sienna and apply that into the deepest sections. I always find it easier to work from your darker pigments up to your lighter pigments. I then do the same with the dark red ochre, just applying it to all the other areas. Doing the same with the old rust, into the pigment binder, into the old rust pigment, and then just start to smash this into the base into a number of different areas to create some highlights within the red ochre color. Follow this up with some rust, applying that to some of the other areas, again letting all of these pigments kind of blend together, bleed together, and create some more interesting subtle variations within the base. Now if you want to emphasize that, you can come in with a dry brush and sort of just stipple over the top of them, push them together, manipulate the pigments while they're still wet on the base to create more subtle transitions. Then once again we dip into our pigment binder, we go into the new rust and we use this for the brightest sections within the base. And that's pretty much it. It is as easy as that to create these Mars style bases. Now it does take a wee while to dry, but you can accelerate that if you have a hairdryer. So this one's almost dry and you can see those different variations that come about from mixing those pigments. You've got these nice progressions through the different colors, through the different values, and it just gives you that real soft, dusty look. Now if you want to add any additional pigments over the top or manipulate it after, by all means just go back into your pigments and apply them over the top. Because we used that binder, you don't have to worry about dusting any of them off. Now I'm just going to go through the same process on the base that we built. So I'm into the pigment binder, I'm into the burnt sienna, and I'm slapping that into the deepest recesses. I'm using more pigment binder to almost create like a wash consistency this time, so we can get it into the deepest of recesses. We're then in with that dark red ochre and we're just applying that over all of the other sections to establish a nice even base. Again, we're thinning it down a wee bit more to try and get into those crevices and cracks within the crackle paint. So you can manipulate the consistency of your pigments as much as you want by using the pigment binder to thin it down, the same way as you would with the paint and water. Then we're into the old rust. We're going to repeat the highlighting process, starting to target smaller areas within the base, allowing these pigments to bleed together to create soft, natural transitions. Same with the rust, following the same process, targeting smaller areas again, and just allowing the pigments to work together. Again, depending on how much you've thinned them, depends on how much they'll bleed together. And then we're just in with some new rust over the top, just to again pick out the main details. Again, this will probably take, a good few hours to dry, but if you have a hairdryer, you can expedite that process and you should end up with something that looks a bit like this. I think this gives you a fantastic dusty effect that can be used for Mars bases, Iron Earth style bases, but you can apply it to a load of different miniatures and a load of different ways. So all we got to do is clean up the rim of the base, get that on, a couple of even coats just to tidy everything up. And because we applied all of our pigments using the pigment binder, they're all stuck to the base. We don't need to worry about sealing them or applying anything else over the top. And this is the finished result. It's super fast, super effective, and gives you a fantastic result that works with nearly any style of miniature. Let's get a few miniatures on the spinny thing and see it in all its glory. So it works fantastic with some 30k Marines, and it works with nearly any color scheme as well. You can even apply some of the pigments to the feet to make it look like the model's integrated in there, like I've done with this Necron Warrior. And you can even do it with some display pieces where I've created this Iron Earth style for my big boss. If you want to see how I painted this model, there's a tutorial series on my Patreon. So I can't wait to see how you apply this to your own armies, and be sure to share some pictures with me in the Discord. Hopefully you found that useful. If you have any comments, questions or suggestions for future videos, please drop them below in the comments. And if you want to take your painting to the next level, I have a Patreon that's focused around feedback and coaching. You also get access to exclusive guides and content. If you want to show me what you've been working on or what you've been using these videos for, please head over to the Discord and drop some pics into the whips or the completed projects. I would love to see what you've been doing. Just want to say thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you at the next one. All links can be found below in the description, and don't forget to like and subscribe.